I've told this guy numerous times over the years that he is one of the most talented men I have ever met. And today, first of all, he's a man of many talents, but today, for the first time, he's going to finally admit that he OD'd on McAllister's sweet tea.
It'll do it to you every time. So.
Jody McDowell. Jody, I am so glad to see you and see you looking so great.
I promise you it's good to see me anywhere right now, so it's literally a walking miracle.
You are that. When I came up to the door, you were sitting at this piano. I guess it was this one. I know you got another in another room. And I just stayed outside the door for about 5 minutes listening to you play.
I actually had somebody on the phone, and they were talking to me. They was one of Ronnie's fans, and she's headed to Florida. And I was talking to her on the phone for a second, and I'd sat down here and was doodling and said, "Can you hear that piano?" And she said, "No, I don't hear it at all." And I was trying to turn it up and get to where she could hear it. And so
well,
I don't know if she ever did or not.
I could hear it. It was as beautiful as ever. Let's start by telling people some of the many talents and things that you have, titles that you've collected over the years. You are a current city alderman in the town of Portland, Tennessee.
Correct.
You've been that for quite a while.
Since 2003. Which is insane to me. That's 23 years. I hold the record of the longest sitting councilman in the city, and I will always hold that record because they've enacted term limits recently, and so now someone would term out before they could ever get there. So
really,
and I'm actually in my last term because of that now, so I can no longer run again.
Wow, over 2 decades.
Crazy.
The longest sitting councilman.
Seen a lot change in those 23 years.
They've just been waiting for you to stand up instead of sit all those years. You are a Sumner County Sheriff's Deputy.
Yes, sir.
How long?
It'd be 10 years this year.
10 years.
It's crazy. I started out as a Portland police officer. Well, I started out as a dispatcher out of high school, and I dispatched for several years there before they sent me to the police academy, and I became a policeman for Portland. And I left there and went on the road as Ronnie's piano player for about 13 years, and then decided I wanted to get back into law enforcement again, I was 44 years old then and had to go. I had been out so long, I had let my certification expire. I had to go through the police academy for my second time, which is almost unheard of. Nobody does that. So
wow.
I went through it, and I got through it okay, but it was not as easy as it was the first time I went through it.
Well, we met about a decade ago when I was writing Ronnie McDowell's book, and Ronnie is your cousin?
That's my uncle.
Uncle.
He's my dad's brother.
All right, he acts like your cousin.
Oh, yeah.
And we were on tour with Ronnie, and I helped him write his autobiography, and we got to know each other a little bit. And then when I heard, and I saw how talented you were, and I heard that you were going to become a sheriff's deputy, I thought, that is crazy. If I had that guy's talent, I wouldn't be doing that.
You know, and the crazy thing is, I guess everything is meant to be, because thank God I did that, because shortly after I became a deputy, COVID hit, and all these musicians like to starve to death. There were no shows, and they were all having to draw unemployment, and I still had a job as a police officer. So, you know, it worked out in my favor. And I miss I always tell people, if I could make a living playing music, that's what I would be doing, and not risking my life out there on the road. So, but you know, it is what it is. And I love what I do, so I love dealing with people. That's I'm a people person. So.
We're going to get to the health issues that you've dealt with. Before we get to that, you look like you're on the road to recovery, really in a big way.
Absolutely.
Okay, there's a number of things I wanted to ask about. Can you still do, after all that you've been through, can you still do Edith Bunker?
Songs that make the hit parade.
He can do it.
I almost can get it out. That note's a little high for me. But
do you still do your Gomer Pyle?
yeah, like golly. The funny thing is, I always tell people Gomer sounded like me, because you know he put that voice on. That was not the way he sounded in real life.
Oh yeah.
And I sound like that, and I don't know where it. Nobody in my family, my mom, my dad, nobody sounds like this, and why I sound.
Really?
I don't have any idea where it comes from.
Did they think you were putting on, or?
I don't know what it is, but I can't even call somebody and disguise my voice on the phone. They go, "Okay, Jody."
All right, let's get serious. Let's go back to last year. Ronnie McDowell, in the middle of the summer, he was on stage, had a stroke. Serious deal. You weren't there that day, were you?
I was not.
I wasn't either. I was watching it. I was watching the live stream.
Same here.
And scared to death. But Ronnie recovered, and he's good as new or better.
Yeah, he had plaque buildup in his carotid artery that caused that, and I guess that's something new that they can do now is clean that out. Maybe they couldn't do that years ago, but if you're lucky and you survive that incident and you get that cleaned out, you're good as new.
Oh yeah, he is. In mid-October, your touring partner, Wade Bernard, had what they thought was a mild heart attack, and a week later he died.
Yeah. Was on the road many years with Wade. Good fella.
Great guy. And then came New Year's Eve, December 31st. What were you doing the day of New Year's Eve, and how were you feeling?
For a few days, I had been dealing with chest pain, but for a couple of years, I've been dealing with indigestion issues, horrible heartburn, always felt like food was up here, bloated, all the digestion issues. So I had learned to kind of blow that off. I'd had chest pains for a couple of days prior to New Year's Eve. It had even woke me up in my sleep, and I get up and mix some Alka-Seltzer and some water and chug that and lay back down and, got a little relief. And New Year's Eve, setting up the piano to play the New Year's Eve show with Ronnie down near Opryland. And I bent over to do something, and here come that chest pain again. And I thought, this has got to give. This is getting ridiculous. And all of a sudden, the pain shot down both my arms. And I thought to myself, that was different. I've never had that feeling. Of course, my anxiety kicked in, and I hope I'm not having a heart attack. So I sent my wife a text message that said, I'm really struggling with chest pain. My daughter, Michaela, who sings on the road as well, was there with me. And my wife sent her a message that said, put your dad in the car and take him over to Skyline, let them check him. Said if he gives you any fit about it, call an ambulance. So I got in the car with her. Before I left to go over there, I made them pour me about that much beer in a cup to see if I could burp and get rid of, thought I was having indigestion. And I chugged it, and the pain wouldn't go away. But went over to Skyline, and as soon as we pulled up in the parking lot of the ER at Skyline, I burped real big and never had chest pain again. So I thought it was indigestion. But I was there. I went in and let them check me. EKG was beautiful. No sign of any problem. They drew blood. They come out in a few minutes and said, we've got a problem. Your, what they call troponin levels, the enzymes, I guess, at the heart, they were elevated. The doctor says, I'm not real concerned. Usually I've seen them in the thousands. Yours are at 32. And I was like 32, 32? That doesn't seem very high. And he said, well, the problem is we shouldn't be seeing that number at all. We'll check it in an hour, come back out. If they don't go up more than 7 points, you can follow up with a cardiologist. They come out in an hour, they had gone up 11 points. So I ended up getting admitted to Skyline, not quite the way I wanted to spend my New Year's Eve, but...
Well, I'll interrupt you there. Now, how old are you?
53.
53. So on December 31st, New Year's Eve, you went to the hospital and you posted on your Facebook, not the way I wanted to spend New Year's Eve, just like you said. Doctors say my blood work shows I have something going on with my heart.
Correct.
The next day, New Year's Day, you posted a photo of you drinking some sweet tea in your hospital bed. Everything's good.
Yeah, at that point, I felt like $1 million. I felt great. It was what was so weird.
The next day, January 2nd, you posted, God is great, I'm going to be fine. I'm not going to let this get me down. January 5th, you posted, you were going to have heart surgery the next day. Those were almost your last post ever. Because it all went south then. You can pick up there.
I had the first open heart surgery. The doctors gave me B blood platelets during that surgery, not knowing that I was allergic to them. And it sent me into cardiac arrest. They shocked me and did a fluid resuscitation and got me back. I never knew any of that had existed. They told my wife, but she didn't share that information with me, didn't want to upset me until I got out of the hospital, would get out of the hospital. A few days goes by, they've got me up walking. I'm getting ready to go home. They've come in, they've pulled IVs out. I'm making plans to go on Ronnie's cruise with him in a few weeks. They had been coming in and giving me shots of heparin, which is pretty common. That's a blood thinner. The doctor comes in and says, we see something on your monitor that we don't like the looks of. Before we let you go home, we want to take just one last look just to be safe. They take me back down, run another arteriogram. He gives me the bad news laying there that we don't know what the problem is, but everything the doctor did, all the bypasses, all the grafts, they have failed. They're clotted off, they're not working. We're going to have to open you back up. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. For a second time, I thought, who does that ever happen to? And I'll back up a little bit. Several months prior to that, as a police officer, I had been in the woods looking for a suicidal female, and I got into what they call a tick bomb. I didn't know it at the time. I got home later that afternoon and took my uniform off and discovered that I was covered up in ticks. They were everywhere. My wife stood on the back porch raking them off me with a debit card. And a lot of them were them little seed ticks, you've heard of that. But I had two of the big Lone Star ticks, one right in my groin and one embedded in my left nipple. This bite like to have never healed. I had to go to the doctor and get shots, and they tested me for Lyme disease, Rocky Mountain spotted fever. None of that was positive, and eventually that went away. But so then I start going to the doctor because every time I eat, I'm sick and I feel terrible. I'm bloated. I'm having diarrhea. I'm having just feel terrible all the time. The doctors are flooding me with heartburn medications and all those things, and not knowing that I had had been given a disease by this tick called alpha-gal syndrome, something I'd never heard of in my life until this happened. It's something that's relatively new, but they've started seeing a lot of cases around this area. And the alpha-gal syndrome makes you allergic to any animal that gives live birth. And mostly that's hoofed animals like cows, pigs, deer, goat, lamb, those hoofed animals. Animals that lay eggs, I'm not allergic to that. So I can have all the chicken, turkey, fish, alligator, snake, anything that lays an egg. Doctors don't know I have this. I don't know I have it. I have O positive blood. O positive blood is normally a good thing because you can take blood from anybody in the case you need a blood transfusion. Unless you have that tick-borne illness. The tick-borne illness causes B blood products to have a fatal anaphylactic reaction. So when they gave me the B blood products during my first open heart surgery, it was what sent me into cardiac arrest the first time. So then I told you about the heparin shots they were giving me, the blood thinner. It's derived from pork. That blood thinner is, of all things. It's amazing the amount of things that in our daily lives that have mammal in them. But this heparin blood thinner, instead of thinning my blood, was clotting. It sent clots into my heart, into my arms, it sent them all over. They still are oblivious and have no idea why it's happening. So I go down for the second open heart surgery. That was the last thing that I remembered happening before I went, not knowing I would be in the shape that I would be in for the next few weeks. They took me down for the second open heart surgery, And they pre-treated me for the allergic reaction that I had prior to taking me into that surgery. So in that open heart surgery, once again, they gave me B blood products, not knowing that they would be a problem. Because of the pre-treatment they did, I didn't have an immediate reaction to it. They close me up, bring me out, send me to a recovery room, and they tell my wife, you need to leave, go home and get some rest. You can't be in that room with him when he's just, of course my wife's upset. I'll sleep in the car. I'm not leaving. And my boss, the sheriff, and other people are there, and they convince her, you really need to go get some rest. You've been through a lot. You have been having to deal with all this. He's in good hands. From Centennial in Nashville to my home, is an hour drive. My wife gets home. She was here about 15 minutes when the hospital calls her and says, you need to gather your family and get back here. It's not good. I had coded. My heart stopped beating. For 13 minutes, they did CPR on me. While they were hooking me to life support, they finally got my heart back beating at a 5% function, which is just barely there. Still, all this time, they have no idea what's going on. They can't understand what the problem is. So they opened me then for a third time because they need to make sure that the CPR didn't tear anything loose. It did. They had one of the grafts was torn. They had to reattach it. But when they tried to close my chest back up, my heart would stop beating. So they had to leave me open. It's an open wound.
Gee.
For 48 hours is the most they can leave you open. I don't know that anybody realizes I was within an hour or so from taking a ride in a hearse. They told my wife, we have to close him in the morning, good, bad, or ugly. We've done everything textbook perfect. We don't know what's wrong, but it didn't work. It's too much of a complication if we leave it open. We have to close it. You have some tough decisions to make. My wife had made an update on Facebook of, all of my progress along, just keeping everybody updated, because all Ronnie's fans on the road, that followed us for years, they were all wanting to know, how's it going? She made an update. It had over 500 messages on that post. She couldn't read all of that. She sat down in shock, in tears, sitting there thinking to herself, she said, am I supposed to bury him in a uniform or a suit, or what would he want to be buried in? She's trying to be in denial that this is even going on. She opens her phone, and like the Wheel of Fortune, flipping through all of those messages, literally amazed at how many messages have been posted on it. And her phone froze and hung on a message from a complete stranger asking what is the possibility that he has an undiagnosed case of alpha-gal syndrome.
Wow.
Now, that wasn't a God thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So my wife says, well, what even is that? And when she starts looking it up and realized that it's a tick-borne illness, she recalled standing on the back porch raking ticks off of me. 4 o'clock in the morning, she jumps up, showers, races down to Centennial, gets in the room with 8 of the top cardiologists at Centennial standing around her, humble, their heads down, arms on her back, going, Miss McDowell, we're sorry. We don't know what happened. We've consulted with the best heart doctors in the business, and they agree we've done everything we can do, and we don't know why it didn't work. Sometimes it just doesn't work. My wife says, can I ask a question? What is the possibility that he has something called alpha-gal syndrome? One of the heart failure specialists said, no, we don't think it's anything like that. He's having what we call HIT, which is heparin-induced something. Rhonda says, I'm not a doctor, and I don't really know much, but I did read about this alpha-gal syndrome last night, and it causes what you're talking about. One of the other heart doctors says, guys, she's not wrong about that. I did a paper on that in college, and that is true. So then my wife says, can I ask another question? What is his blood type? Well, they start scurrying and looking through the computers. He has O positive blood. She said, what blood did you give him during surgery? We give him B blood products both times. She said, can I read something else that I read from the Mayo Clinic last night? She reads from the article from the Mayo Clinic that explains that the B blood products cause a fatal anaphylactic reaction to someone with alpha-gal syndrome. The doctors were, at that point, by George, we think she's figured out what was wrong. They decided to send they asked the little nurse, can we even test for that? The nurse looks and says, we can, but it takes about 5 days to get the results back. At that point, what did they have to lose? They send the test off. They start treating me, though, right then like I had alpha-gal, the alpha-gal syndrome. They changed what they were doing to me and got rid of the allergic products, and it was like rebooting a computer when they did that, and here I sit talking to you today. Complete miracle. Just complete random 100% miracle. I asked the doctor when they let me go home, he said, do you have any questions? I said, Doc, surely I cannot be the only person to have ever gone through this. And he hung his head and he said, I'm going to be honest with you. We believe that you're the only person that has ever survived this.
Wow.
And they said, because of what we learned through your ordeal, it has changed the way we do open heart surgery at Centennial, and it will save other lives in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
And I said, well, if it will save other people's lives, it was worth going through it. I took an oath as a police officer to do that, but not quite that way, but however it works out, it worked out.
Your wife saved your life. The doctor saved your life. The Lord saved your life. You were getting all those messages on your phone and her phone. Every one of those messages was a prayer behind it. All those prayers going up.
They worked.
They worked.
They worked.
You had thousands of people praying for you.
In multiple countries, it amazed me at how that went viral and how that spread.
I know you were busy and knocked out at the same time, but could you feel those prayers?
Oh, the old saying of seeing your life flash in front of your eyes when you die, I got to watch that twice. It was the craziest thing in the world. The first surgery, when they sent me into cardiac arrest, and they got me back pretty quickly, I saw it then, and it wasn't that pleasant. It was kind of scary and kind of freaky. The second time, when they did CPR on me for 13 minutes, was very relaxed and peaceful. And my dad's been dead for a few years now. I saw my dad, and he was absolutely beautiful. He never said anything to me, but he was smiling and had his thumb up like, you got this. And I went on like, I do, I'm good. And I went on to the next scene. I watched my whole entire life from birth to that moment go by, just like frame by frame, and I comprehended every bit of it. It's the weirdest thing. It's hard to explain.
My pal Johnny Lee has a song, when my life passes before my eyes, it'll be worth watching.
It literally is. I'd be interested to know how many people who have died and come back that can tell me they saw that same thing. It is the weirdest thing.
March 20th, not too long ago, you had your first day home alone. I mean, it's been a slow recovery, but you're getting there. A week after that, you surprised a packed hall who came out for a fundraiser for you. And I was watching online. You sat down at the piano and had Tyler, another guy behind you,
my little brother,
had to hold you up in case you fell off, I guess. And then you stripped off your shirt and showed that Superman t-shirt and went into Great Balls of Fire like you always do. And I cried. And I told my wife, I said, this has to be the only time that somebody has cried to Great Balls of Fire.
That's crazy. one of Ronnie's fans named Alan Kyle, who lives, I don't even know, I'm going to say this wrong, he's in Texas, Louisiana, something like that. I've never met him. He was going through a pretty rough time in his life as well, and something made him, he took an old picture that he found of me, and he used AI to generate that photo with that Superman shirt on it. And he also wrote a song called The Man of Steel.
I saw that. That was a fantastic thing.
And so he had told me that he got such positive response from the photo and all that, that it brought him out of a dark depression that he was in. So,
Wow.
so it was cool to me, the number of lives that touched. But I did that kind of to give him a thumbs up. I told my kids, I said, I want to buy that Superman shirt and wear that on the stage, and I'm going to come out of my shirt and have that on.
Absolutely.
So, because of his picture in the song made me do that. And so.
Do you plan to go back to the sheriff's department?
Oh, yeah.
When do you hope to get back to work?
They've told me that it would take 3 or 4 months for me to completely heal from this. And I'm one of those kind of people. I feel fantastic, but I've still got, I mean, this arm is good right here. This is as high as I can get this one up over here. Don't know what they did. I don't know if they broke something during CPR or what, but I'm going to therapy and they're working on trying to get all that fixed. I want to wake up in the morning and all this be over with and be back to my 100% self. And it just didn't happen that fast. But I will tell you, it's getting better. It's better than it was. So that gives me some hope that it's at least improving.
What are your plans for the future? What are any goals you have, short term and long term?
I hope that this testimony and this story will help somebody else out that may be having those issues and not realize what it is. This alpha-gal syndrome. So that stands for galactose alpha-1,3 galactose is the legal term or the scientific term. Animals like cows, pigs, all of those, they have alpha-gal in their system. It's part of their DNA. It's the way they're made. The tick gives you an antigen sugar molecule or something that causes your body to be allergic to alpha-gal. And they call this alpha-gal syndrome. So if I ingest the beefs and all that stuff, I have an allergic reaction to it. And everybody has a different allergic reaction. One of the things you may find interesting that I just did recently is if you look in my ear, you can see a tiny little bitty bandage in there. Last Friday, I had this little teeny tiny itty bitty needle placed in the top part of my ear that apparently it has an 85 to a 90% success rate that after 3 weeks they remove this and it causes they can't cure you of alpha-gal syndrome, but they can send it into remission. And the acupuncture causes your body to ignore the allergic reaction. So you supposedly can go back to eating normal, eating the red meats and having the dairies and all that without being concerned. I don't know how comfortable I am with that part of it, but if I can at least go out with you to eat and order chicken that I can have and not be concerned that they cooked it on the same grill they just cooked the steak on and the cross-contamination.
Yeah.
So I can't eat out right now because of that, but anyway. I'm alive, so that's all that matters right now. So.
What would you like to tell your fans who are watching, who have been praying for you all these months?
I can tell you that it has been the most humbling experience in the world. The amount of people that have shown love to me and my family, people that have sent money. I was telling you about the cross-contamination. My wife had to get rid of every cooking utensil, pots, pans, anything that had ever had pork or beef cooked in it. And fans bought and replaced every bit of that stuff for us.
Wow.
So none of that stuff ever had anything, because apparently you can't kill the meat grease out. It never goes away. So too much a chance of coming in contact with that. But everything from the police escort home, the community showing up downtown to see me go by in the ambulance, like it has been the most humbling experience. And I told my boss, the sheriff, I said, I'm not one of those cops that stops every car that moves and writes a bunch of tickets and takes a bunch of people to jail. That's just not my policing style. I'm more of kind of a referee. I try to go to a call and make both people feel like they walked away winning something, if that makes any sense. It's been very humbling. I don't even know how to explain it. The outpouring of love and prayers and everything from everybody. And Miss Bobby Slayton, the lady that sent my wife the message, she come to the show the night we got to meet her.
Wow.
And of course, I told her, thank you for saving my life. And she said, God saved your life. He just used me as a tool. And that's true. He did.
Absolutely.
And so it's insane. He's kept me around for something. I don't know what yet. Well, I guess we'll figure that out. So.
Jody, I've always said you're one of the most talented men I've ever met in my entire life. I will add or maybe change that a little bit, kind of like the Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life. Now I am sitting next to the richest man in town.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the truth? There's nothing more valuable than your life. And to think I cheated it twice in a matter of a week's time, it's crazy. It doesn't even feel real. I even had to ask the doctor the other day when we went back down there for a checkup. I said, I had so many vivid dreams and so much. Sometimes I wonder, am I still in that coma and this is a dream?
Wow.
Because it's amazing that the outcome is how this turned out.
We don't want to play anything that'll get us dinged on YouTube here, but can you play us out? Do I need to show you how to play this now?
You can. I can.
I can give you some tips here. And we will look forward to hearing Great Balls of Fire and Edith and Archie and all of those in the future. Jody McDowell, Walking Miracle right here. Thank you, Jody.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Always
God bless
a pleasure.
you. He already has. He'll continue.